What is going on, everybody? And in this video I will be covering the best rallycross vehicle you guys want to have. Now, like I said, I'm not going to be talking about any summit vehicles or anything like that, because this is for pretty much a vehicle that anybody can get, where you guys can compete in summits or compete in races and stuff like that. So getting right into it, guys, obviously I'm hovering over the Enforcer Unit. I'll get to that in a second, but let's go over some of the other vehicles first on why I didn't pick some of them. So obviously the Porsche GT3 RS is obviously one of the fastest rally cars in the game. One thing it struggles with, though, is its handling can be very, very hard to get perfect. This thing is kind of slidey, really quick, but kind of slidey. And then for me, honestly, the Ford Fiesta is one of my favorite other rally cars to use. This car is very fast, handles great, and is quick, but I do not think it is the best there. The Lancia Rally is pretty decent, but I haven't really used this car too much. The handling of this car can be a little weird as well, and I still think it's not as good as the speed of some of the other rally cars. The Audi S1 is pretty decent as well, has great speed, sounds cool. Seems like it's pretty good overall with handling and all that, but I still feel like it falls a little short, even against the Ford Fiesta for that matter, with some of the other aspects of how it drives and stuff like that, which could be an issue. The Ford Focus RS is also a pretty dang good car, honestly. With the right build on this car is actually insanely quick. Handles great and can eat turns for breakfast without any issues at all. This car is pretty dang good, but I also feel like it's not the best as well, to be honest. And then moving on to the Delta is pretty decent. Haven't driven this car a lot. I really only use these cars when I absolutely have to in some summits. Moving on to the Camaro RS, this is actually my favorite vehicle to use for the Rallycross stunt events. This car is actually insanely good. I can get like 155k on most of those events with this car, so I definitely recommend trying this thing out on the stunt events there. Looks like we'll be having more of those Rallycross events be popping up in the future. The Fairlady is pretty good as well, not one of my favorites to use, and then obviously the 124 Rally I don't use too much, and to be honest, I really don't use any of these next cars you see here. The C3 Racing is pretty good. That was actually one of the first cars I drove and had for the rally car class there when I first played this game. That car is pretty dang good. It competes pretty well if you're looking for an overall car. You can level up and stuff like that and race pretty good, because that car is pretty decent and is actually pretty fast for what it is. The rest of the cars are pretty good as well. For recent Summit, it was a Japan class, and I actually used this car here, the Mitsubishi Lancer, which you saw in the last Summit. This car is also pretty good, handles pretty decently well, and has some great speed to it, and honestly looks freaking awesome. And then, guys, the rest of the vehicles here I don't really use too much anyway, guys. I did have a video recently on the Ice Hunter. That truck's actually pretty cool. It's actually pretty dang fast for what it is. The rest of the vehicles, guys, here are pretty much just collection vehicles. You could race them, but a lot of people are not going to pick them, especially in a Summit no restriction race. Anyway, let's get into why I chose this coming up vehicle as my favorite. So as you guys can see here, I am hovering over the Cadillac Escalade Enforcer Unit. To be honest, guys, I believe this is the best rally car in the game. There's been a lot of summits recently with no restriction rallycross races, and if you noticed, a lot of the top players were using the Cadillac Escalade for a reason. This thing is not only really fast, it handles insanely good, and this thing can hold corners and has great stability and looks great, and you can buy it in the off-road HQ. So taking a quick look at what I'm running on here, I am running the Nitro Canvas set with a mix of drifty, extra pump, frenetic, pure, and ventilated. Pretty much a mix of everything there for good nitrous, refill, speed, everything there. Overall, really good thing to have on the Rallycross class, guys. Here's the build I'm running, which I will also show at the end of the video if you want to try it out. This is the same build I ran on that Summit that had the Rallycross race in it as well. And like I said, guys, this truck is really amazing. I'm going to jump into a race right now and explain more why I like this thing. And like I said, if you do not have this thing, I recommend picking it up. This truck is insanely good. So guys, jumping right into the race here with the Cadillac Escalade. Now, I wanted to do an actual like rallycross race that wasn't on like a track, had like a nice little trail race here. So I want to show you guys why this thing is so good. So obviously, starting right off with this truck, guys, for one, you'll notice when I'm driving it on how quick this thing actually is. Like, just look at this speed real fast here. Like, it literally isn't even struggling. This was actually the race that you had to do a while back on one of the summits, and I actually used this vehicle on it. And if you guys looked at the top players were all using this truck, which is pretty funny. And that's for a good reason. Like I said, there is a lot of great vehicles in every class, guys, like I've been saying. I noticed there is a lot of, like, every class is, like, more than one great car, but I feel like there is one car that seems like it's on top that you can actually go and purchase and actually use it for summits and stuff like that, instead of buying, like, 3 or 4 different cars in that class, wasting all your money and not being able to actually have a great car that you can compete with. So I figured that's why I wanted to do this with these cars, because I feel like this truck, for example, is well worth the money you can get, and you could just go buy it right in the HQ there. This thing is actually insanely good, and I didn't really realize it at first, because when I first did these races, I was actually driving like the Ford Fiesta, for example, and I was like, well, okay, this thing is not fast enough. I go and look at the leaderboard, and all the top players are using this, so I'm like, wait a minute, let's go drive it. And surely enough, I jumped in the race and I couldn't believe it. Like, this truck is actually insanely impressive, and it kind of blows my mind a little bit. How quick it is, how good it handles. Like, you guys will notice around these corners, this thing doesn't struggle, it doesn't slide, nothing. Like, it literally doesn't have any issues. I do have a good build on it, which I will show at the end of the video, like I mentioned. So you guys can try this thing out as well, because when a no restriction Rallycross race pops up, this is the vehicle I use now. I was using the Ford Fiesta before, like for stunt events and stuff like that. Like I said, the Camaro RS 1969 one, if you're looking for a great stunt event vehicle, that thing with the right build on it is actually insanely good, and I get all my scores on the Rallycross races with that vehicle, which is pretty crazy considering on what it actually is. I really did notice, guys, how good this thing actually handles. Like I said, I notice a lot of rally cars, which you can all agree with, do struggle a bit on handling. Some of them literally will slide around corners or lose their traction real bad. As you guys see going around these turns here, I'm gunning this thing like 70, 80 miles an hour around these turns here, as you will see. And this thing is just eating the turns, sometimes around 70, 60, depending on how the turn is. But you can see there it doesn't struggle or have any issues. Some cars will lose a lot of traction on turns, which if we're going after the best time on these summits here, guys, we can't be having loss of time like that, because 3 to 4 seconds in a race can mean a huge difference on your time, especially in the summit. So I do think that's an important thing to note there. Another thing, guys, if you do not have nitro chemists, like I said, it'd be a great thing to have on these vehicles because it does make them much faster. So here's a little straightaway here to see if I can get this thing up to some top speed before another insane turn. This thing actually it's 180 with no issues, which is also crazy. So with a little nitrous, you're good to go down a hill there as well. It's like it honestly shocks me, guys, on how good this truck is. Like I said, I never really realized it. When I actually drove the other rally vehicles, I was like, I wonder what the best rally vehicle is. And I started driving this thing more, and I was like, all right, hold on. This thing is actually this good. And surely enough, now whenever a no restriction summit comes out with one of the Rallycross races, surely enough, the Cadillac Escalade is on top, guys. This thing is incredible. I recommend giving this thing a shot, guys, because it is amazing. Thank you guys again so much for watching. I will now show my settings for this vehicle because this thing is well worth a look if you guys are interested in an overall great Rallycross vehicle. Here are my settings for the Cadillac Escalade Enforcer Unit.